Hi, it's Roman from Swarmia, and today I'd like to talk with you about initiatives, a new feature we are launching to help engineering leaders get a clear view into their strategic projects and to make sure they are not getting stuck or blocked, there's activity happening all the time, they are on track, and to know early when something goes off track so you can act and course correct when needed. And now, when you go to Swarmia, you'll see that there's a new tab called Initiatives under Organizational Insights, where you will see all of your organization's initiatives in one place. You can add initiatives right in Swarmia, and you can build them here. Or if you already manage your initiatives in Jira, for example, you can also add them directly from Jira, so you won't have to manage your initiatives in two different places. In this case, you will just add initiatives from Jira, and all the data will be kept in sync. And every time you make changes in Jira, they will reflect in Swarmia automatically. Once you add your first initiatives to Swarmia, you're going to see this view. Here, you can see all of your initiatives in progress, all the planned initiatives, and all the completed ones. And you can follow progress on these initiatives, looking at all the subtasks that are linked, all the work that is linked to the initiative. Now, when you have an initiative that's in progress, you want to make sure that there is progress happening all the time. And when there are longer periods of inactivity, it might indicate that something is stuck or blocked. And at that point, you'd want to investigate deeper what's going on in there. So already in this view, we are looking at the latest couple of weeks of activity linked to an initiative. And then if we see that there are longer periods of inactivity, we are marking these initiatives as idle or at risk. So if there are several days when no activity has been happening on an initiative, it gets an idle label. And for a longer period of inactivity, like 2 weeks, you're going to see the at-risk label. And this way you can get at a glance view of initiatives that might need your help to actually make sure that the progress is happening all the time. When you create an initiative, there are a couple of things that you can control. You can add a description to communicate within your organization. You can add a link to a knowledge base or Jira or any other place where you'd like to provide more context. You can also add a target start date and target end date. And that is going to define the timeline that you see in Swarmia and you are able to analyze for the initiative. You can also choose to leave target start date and target end date blank. And in this case, we are going to look at all the activity assigned to the initiative and choose the target start date based on the first activity that we see linked to the initiative. So you can as well leave this blank. Then the last step is adding issues that you want to include to the initiatives. Epics, stories, all the way to smaller tasks or bugs. You can just define the scope of the initiative in this view. Again, if you're doing it from Jira, and if you have this defined in Jira already, you don't need to do this step. Now, let's take a look at one initiative in more detail. When you go to the initiative view, there are a couple of things that you will see. First, you will see the context that you have provided when creating the initiative. You will see what is the progress towards the initiative and all the teams that contributed to the initiative across the entire lifetime. You will also see the start date or the calculated start date based on activity if you left the start date field blank when creating the initiative. And you will also see the target end date for the initiative. Now, there are a couple of ways and a couple of different perspectives you can look at initiative data in Swarmia. The first one is about progress. In this chart over here, you can see what's the total lifetime of the initiative, meaning when was the first activity or the first plans. You can also see the active days, meaning that the days when there was activity of the entire lifetime. So we see that in this case, only 5 months there was actually progress towards the initiative when the entire lifetime was almost 9 months. And flow efficiency is the metric that basically tells you what is the percentage of active days of all the work days in the entire lifetime of the initiative. And you just want to make sure that this number is not falling too low, like 20%, meaning that you're just not able to prioritize the initiative to make progress all the time. In the chart below, you're going to see all the planned work, basically the scope of the initiative, and all the completed work. You also see the timestamps when the scope of an initiative grew. So you can also get an idea of scope creep right here. And you also see the points in time when some stories or epics assigned to the initiative were completed. So you get a quite good idea of progress that happened here. The chart on the right gives you an idea of effort that you dedicate towards the initiative in its entire lifetime. And you can see all the people that contributed to the initiative month over month. And you can spot that maybe on a certain month, there are just less people that were able to work on an initiative. And that might indicate that you are not on track with the target date and you need to dedicate more resources to the initiative. You can also look at this data from the team's perspective, and you can see all the teams that were involved in the process throughout the whole lifetime. And how did the collaboration pattern change, for example, by having security team involved at the right moments, or having too many teams working on the initiative, or on the opposite, one team maybe bringing the whole initiatives to the finish line towards the end, and more kind of siloing in this case. So you get this perspective here as well. Now, if you look at the activity timeline below, it gives you a more granular view into all the activity that happened in this initiative over its entire lifetime. Every dot that you see in the activity timeline indicates a week, and the size of the dot tells you the volume of activity that happened on that week. So here we see that there was no activity happening. But then on these weeks, you can see that there were pull requests and issues completed on that week. And the more activity we see, the larger is the size of a dot. And so what it helps you to do is to identify patterns and gaps in activity. And you'd want to make sure that on every level, starting from the initiative itself to the epics and stories and all the work that is linked to the initiative, you want to make sure that there's progress happening all the time and that the responsible teams are able to prioritize work that goes to the initiative and are able to make progress all the time. And then every once in a while, you will spot a situation like this, where there was activity happening all the time consistently, you're making progress, you're moving towards your target, and then for some reason, there is nothing. And at this point, it's important to understand what happened there and why something got stuck and why we were not able to make progress for a longer period of time. And so in Swarmia, you're able to look at 1 week and just click on that, and you will get a detailed view and the raw data and all the activity that happened on that week to give you an idea of like, okay, what actually happened there? Who were the people that were involved in these projects? Whom should I talk to understand what actually happened there in detail? In the activity timeline, you will see all the work that is in progress that belongs to the initiative, as well as all the completed and planned work. Completed work shows here as these green lines over here. And you can also drill deeper to understand how specific projects were progressing within the context of this initiative. So you can open an epic in this case, and you can see all the activity on all stories within that epic. If you have plans defined for a story, an epic, or an initiative, we are going to visualize these plans here as well. So if you have a start date, we are going to show this dashed line around the start date of your initiative or epic or story. The same is true for the target end date. And if you leave it blank, we just leave it open-ended in the visualization as well. Oftentimes, it is quite useful to see how the plans for a project overlap or overlay with the activity that happened on that project. And we see oftentimes that there is quite a big mismatch between the defined plan and the, what happened in reality. So that's also quite helpful to see over here. And then sometimes you just want to drill deeper into specific issues to understand how did the story go. And this scale is just not enough because here we are focusing on a larger scale. And so at this point, you can select a story or an epic from this view, and you can open it as page, which is going to create a similar view, but for a story. And it essentially zooms in for you to investigate activity in an even more granular way, where you can see every day here as a dot, and you can see what was the activity was happening on each day when this story was in progress. And that can be very helpful when you're investigating in a more granular way, and you're actually working with teams to see where did we get blocked, and what are the things we need to do in order to make progress. You can do it on all levels, so you can also get a similar overview on the epic level, and anytime you want to expand an issue in this view, you can just do it from a pop-up over here. That is all. I hope you find this overview helpful, and thank you for watching.